Doug?
Yes.
Ken? All right, approval of agenda in front of you. Do you have the agenda? Are there any additions, subtractions, corrections that need to be made?
Are there people here for specific items?
Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Steve,
Second.
second by Lauren. Discussion. Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
All right, at this time, it is citizens forum, so we will ask that you state your name and we will go ahead and open that up to whoever. Latifa?
Sure, yeah. Latifa Faisal, Surrey County Board of Supervisors. I just wanted to pop in this evening because I know there's been a lot of concern and conversation about the tornado sirens. And I know I've spoken with you, Mayor, several times. I know Linda's spoken with you at least once. We've been, trying to get the issues figured out for, to help you get the issues figured out. What we keep hearing is that people are being told that the supervisors are responsible for remedying the problem. And that it's troublesome for two reasons. It's troublesome that there's no tornado siren alerting people. So that's just concerning just in general, which I know you're concerned about as well. But it's doubly concerning that when I hear from people that they're being told that it's the supervisors who are responsible for ensuring that the sirens are working when, we're happy to help and facilitate in any way that we can, and we're more than willing to do whatever we can to help you. We just want to make sure that there's good information going out
Sure.
to people. And so I did, we got another phone call last week that someone had called and asked about the sirens and had been told that the supervisors weren't working on fixing it. So I listened to the last meeting. And I heard some confusing information about what's happening with the sirens. I heard that I had personally said something that was not accurate. So I just wanted to come and kind of clear that up and once again say that the county is committed to helping make sure that the sirens get working again, but that we really want to make sure there's good information out there for everybody. And again, I am happy to facilitate a meeting, Mayor, with me, you, and the Sheriff's Office and your fire chief to make sure we know exactly what's going on with the sirens, and then ensure that if it comes down to needing to get new sirens, that you have access to resources to look for grants to get that done so that we can just get it taken care of so that everybody's safe. And
Yeah, and I think you took one of my newsletters.
I
right?
did. Mm-hmm.
That's in there that says that we are working on it as a joint effort between the county, the electronic engineering, and the city officials are working on that. So I apologize for any misunderstanding or misstating anything. So I really appreciate you coming.
Yeah. Again, happy to help. And if there are questions at any time, I'm happy to find the answers.
Absolutely.
Just really primarily concerned about getting good information out.
Sure.
So thank you.
Thank you. Anything for Latifa while she is here?
Yes, the sirens work just fine on the old radio system. They are not working now. Whose responsibility is it to make sure that they work, since it was the Board of Supervisors and the Sheriff's Office that selected the system?
So when I spoke with the Sheriff's Office, the system's not the reason the sirens aren't working. It's a receiver issue, but it's not it's not the system, because the signal's getting to the tower. So I don't know what it is that's not working, but according to the sheriff's office and Raycom, that the signal is making it to the tower. So I don't know what the
So where do
problem
we
is.
go from there?
When did
Well,
the
that's-
new thing start? How long has it been?
It's been a few months.
So this
It
was, the signal was interrupted when the school construction started, is that right?
I believe the one, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe there was something when they tried to hook it back up, because they had to put in a whole new electrical unit, that it got that whoever was the electrician at the time did not hook that up correctly.
Okay.
And so at that point, we only had one, and then they came back and fixed it. But we were still not getting any.
My question is, every Saturday, the 1st and the 3rd, right, they're supposed to go off. How come we're not hearing one of them then? None of them, neither one of them go off.
I
If one's working, you'd think we would hear it, and it's not going off.
will check with Tony.
Okay.
It was April that a council member talked to a friend of mine that the sirens weren't working and hadn't been working for several months. So go back from April. And it's August. Think that in that period of time, somebody could have figured out what the problem was.
We've had electronic engineering out here at least 3 times to go through and figure out what's going on. They've sent us numerous and billed us numerous times for different products to try to fix it, and none of those products have worked.
Since when did that start?
I'm not 100%. Deb, you know the first time that electronic engineering was out here?
No, I'd have to.
I know they were, I know they were backed up quite a bit as well. Trying to get people out here, because I think the last time it took them a month or 2 in order for them to even come out for the 3rd time.
For a tornado siren? That's crazy.
You had mentioned several meetings ago that it was going to be very expensive to have to get this fixed.
Yep.
Okay, according to the state law, it reads, local governments are the delegated authority from the state to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare of their residents. And I feel that that has not been done for at least 6 months.
I'm
And
sorry
that's
that you
where I
feel that way.
came up with the comment I made and was reprimanded for. So rather than saying what I did, I'm going to say it's dereliction of duty of the council and members of the council and the mayor for not putting this on the front burner. You're putting the residents at risk.
I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Well,
I do
I
too.
do. I'm not the only one, and neither is Mitzi.
So can we give any sort of plan forward?
Yeah, so the plan forward right now is that if there is an emergency that requires the outdoor warning sirens to go off, the fire department will immediately be paged out during those situations, because they'll be paged out to do storm spotting or anything like that. So they'll get on the back of one of the fire trucks and turn the switch on those.
And for testing purposes, on the 1st and 3rd Sundays, Saturdays at noon, how do we get those to go off? If the signal is getting there, obviously someone has to physically go out.
Well, I would think you'd want to make sure that they're running properly so that we know that they're actually working instead of just
Right.
someone setting them up manually.
Right.
You know, because how long are we gonna have to rely on that?
And I agree with that. It's,
You don't need to just go test them every Saturday just so that people can hear them, because then people are gonna think they're working and they're still
Right.
not.
I agree. I think if we could offer something during this time, trying to figure out how to make this work, it will give maybe peace of mind.
Yeah.
And if that was me hopping on top of a car to set them off, that's a liability. But
Yeah, it'll be the manual. Otherwise, like I have said in the past, and what's in the newsletter is there's also that E911 that
Yes.
we're a part of as well. So
That doesn't cover it. And you mentioned the cost of it, but how much has it cost for the, quote, new developments in lawyers' fees, in paperwork, and employee time? How much does that cost? And I think that the sirens are more important than trying to get new houses here when there are no jobs in the area.
I think we're talking about two different buckets. You've
No,
got
we're
the
talking about the money.
emergency bucket, and then you have a different bucket for development.
How much did you want to pay a developer now? You said at the last meeting.
Again, it's a different bucket. You cannot use the money that I'm talking about for emergency funds. It's a completely different bucket. It's all part of the state
You
of
guys
Iowa
shuffle
code. and
money
city-
back and forth all the time, so I don't understand why that can't be done.
Because it's for public right-of-way city infrastructure. It's not emergency.
Well, isn't the siren, isn't that part of the infrastructure to keep the
It's
citizens
not a
safe?
part of public infrastructure. It's not sewer, it's not water, it's not electric, it's not roadways.
Here, we'll go back to the state laws again.
That's fine.
Remember what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So somewhere you can find the money. You found it
Correct.
for
And
other
we're
things.
actively working on with electronic engineering to find a plan. We're gonna set up a meeting with Latifa, with Nick from the county, and with Tony to try to get this resolved. We have been in contact with not only electronic engineering, but also Raycom, who is the current
Right.
emergency communications provider for all of Story County and Storycom, to try to get this fixed. Unfortunately, the issue that we're having is the fixes that we have gotten so far haven't been obviously acceptable, and they haven't worked.
But it is our sirens that are not working and not the county. Is that correct? It's not the problem with the county communications. It's our receiving is where the problem is. So it's on your backs.
It's been going back and forth.
I think it's, if I may.
Yeah.
I think it's really confusing and complicated, all of the different entities that are communicating. And ultimately, it's the city's responsibility to ensure that the sirens are working. But there are more than just the city
Mhm.
involved, right? And so what we need to do is we need to figure out now, we just need to figure out right now what's not working and get it fixed. And my concern was that there was a lot of different information floating around,
Mhm.
and that we just need to establish what's not working and what our next step is. Because I think it is complicated, and there are many different funding streams that have to be tapped if they need to be replaced.
And there's a lot of
Okay,
hands
but-
in the pot as well right now. We got
But you said that what they have figured out, or what you guys have figured out, is it's the receiver that is the problem, not the sender.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I don't accept that as a authoritative statement. What you're saying may be true, but the system worked. Now the system doesn't, and it doesn't make any difference whether the signal's getting down here if the siren's not going off. So the problem needs to be resolved. Who is leading? Who's the lead on resolving this?
That would
Is
be
it
the
the
city.
city's responsibility to be the leader?
Yes.
In which case, the mayor needs to be calling the meetings to get everybody together and everybody needs to respond. Your contractors and electronic engineering need to get their butts down here and or up to your offices and get this resolved.
So again,
Would you
it's
agree with that?
It's Storycom. It's not Story County's contractors. It's Storycom. And so Storycom is Story Communications, the Story County Communications, which is not Story County. And I think that's where it's getting.
Are you a member of that?
We all are.
Okay, we're all members
Yes.
of this
Storycom.
organization. And if it's the organization that has the contract with Raycom, then that organization needs to be moving forward
I agree.
at the mayor's direction.
I agree. Yes.
One thing I heard was it possibly could be something with the school, you know? It does seem kind of like it all started around that same time when the school started.
The conversion to the other system was about the same time as the school. Wasn't something that the school did. If it proves out that it was something the school did, then the school will end up paying.
Yeah.
Which means we'll all pay through the school levy. But they need to, if they caused the problem, then they need to take responsibility.
It'd just be nice to get it figured out. sooner
Yes,
than
it
later.
I would agree, yeah.
Regardless of
Yeah.
where the problem started, we just need to get it.
I agree with the input that we need to stop the finger pointing and get something done.
I think within another 6 months.
Oh, boy.
That's out of order.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you, sir.
I'm
Yeah,
happy
go
to
ahead.
help with a team of some kind to help
And
you.
I think Ken's also on the emergency
Okay.
committee as well. Yeah, so. Anything else for citizens forum? Scott?
Yes. Well, it's nice to be back here. It's been several years and several other developers. I appreciate you taking the time. There was a lot of effort with 2 or 3 other groups that looked at buying the ground from me and developing, and so I appreciate your efforts. We never know what's going to work out and what won't, but I believe through the process, especially with the other couple groups, putting their best foot forward and then for various reasons deciding not to continue, it's helpful. I know it's frustrating for you and somewhat for me, because, we had a contract to sell it 2 or 3 times. But anyway, here we are. There's still a lot of opportunity ahead. And I know you as a group have learned a lot about what you like and what you don't like and how that gets developed. And I've learned a little bit about it. So what I brought in that plat that I handed out is a plat that I put forward. I'm not sure if maybe there's a date on that, if it was 4 or 5 years ago. But after this last group, kind of worked with it for a few months this spring and then said no thanks. Then I got together with Rebecca, the realtor that's been helping me out, who obviously knows a lot more about what's going on in Maxwell than I do. And talked to Jameson a little bit about what he felt the issues were with the 2 recent groups that decided not to move forward. And one of the things that everybody mentioned was the last plat, that although maybe you were willing to do it, it wasn't really what you wanted because they're pretty small lots. And from what I heard, especially with ATI, what they were doing, it seemed like they were small and getting smaller. And I was curious how it was going to work out, but so going back to this plan, these are larger lots. And after talking to Rebecca, who was going to be in charge of marketing whatever we develop here. And I made that notation at the top, which is really more of a marketing thing. Like I say, the plan is the same that the council approved several years ago. What is different, what I added was, it makes sense to me to get the momentum is to incentivize people to buy 2 or 3 lots together rather than buying one. Now, of course, Rebecca asked me right away if I'd be willing to sell just one, and I would. And, we'll find whatever combinations kind of make sense. But the reasoning for providing incentive for people to buy 2, and in a couple places here you can see, maybe 3 lots would be put together, is for that momentum. Because if we can sell all the lots in 1 year or 1 season, 1 spring, summer, then you can justify putting the road in and it's complete. For me, it makes sense because I may be wrong, but I think that some of the first people that step up that want to buy 1 or 2 or 3 lots, they've probably been waiting for a while. They probably already live in Maxwell or very familiar with it, want to be here for a long time, and would view buying an extra lot as a good investment. That's my thoughts. We'll see if that's true or not. So rather than a plan where it would take 3 or 4 years to sell all the lots that are surveyed out, I want to survey them out. These are buildable lots, but I want to group them together and again provide incentives and discounts for people to buy more than one at a time, and let's get it sold in 3-4 months and have a successful project. Because if this lower 12 acres, if we get it built out, done, built, and some people will continue to, they'll sell a lot 3 years later, build another house, it'll continue to develop. Then we can look at the 40 acres to the north. But what I think that the developers ran into, they, ATI shot themselves in the foot as they're making smaller and smaller lots, and their numbers on the infrastructure cost per lot made sense to them. They're all excited, and then they hand it over to the marketing people in the office. And the marketing people say, it's going to take 6 years to sell all these. And they say, well, how many are we going to sell a year? 5 or 6, and you can't make the infrastructure payments when you only sell 5 or 6 lots a year. So that's why they go away. That's just the economics of it. So again, I'm not sure. So one thing, I think it's a plan that at least in the past, the council liked and approved of. They're a little bit bigger. But then I'm hopeful that we can market them in such a way to get them all sold in a season, get all the infrastructure in, and have a completed project. So that's the main proposal.
Does council have any questions for Scott?
Scott, I see you have 10 numbered lots, but you have 12 at the top. Am I missing a couple somewhere?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just today when I looked at it, 2 of them have 3 lots put together in a grouping rather than just 2.
Right.
And that's where I thought there were actually a couple extra lots.
Yeah, 7 and 10.
Yeah.
You understand that this has to go through planning and zoning before it comes to the council. And planning and zoning will take a look at it to determine whether or not it's a good development plan for the city and whether it meets all ordinance requirements. One of the things that this does not include is a stub street to the north to provide access to the land which is inside the city and which could develop in the future. So this plan as you have it shown may not look the same when it's submitted to planning and zoning, and it may not look the same when it comes to the council. but as I understand your intent, it is to develop approximately 20,000 square foot lots and allow people to buy 2 lots or 3 lots, whatever they want. And then they would place their house such that it may be divided in the future, or it may not be, not divided, but they could sell off a lot in the future if they put their house correctly. Or they could plop the house right down the property line, and keep both of them, which has happened in the community here on a lot of the old lots in the original development of the city. So, and you're looking at full utilities and what kind, and the detail as to the type of street and all that other stuff would be something that would come to us through Planning and Zoning Commission. So I don't know if it's really worth getting into that now, because you've got a lot of planning to do in order to get it to a point where it can be reviewed by Planning and Zoning. It is zoned R2 though, which allows for duplexes. Would you be looking at the possibility of duplexes out there, whatever a person wants to build? Or would you be looking at rezoning it to an R1, which is the 20,000 square foot lots?
Does it have to be rezoned to do a
No.
single family home on the duplex lot?
Nope.
I'm open to, yeah, first part of the question, yes, I'm open to the duplexes, but we have to work with the engineer Snyder a little bit and really think through that, because you know, we don't want one, or I don't think we want one duplex, and then large homes that take up 2 lots, you know, we want some consistency there. So maybe we'd group them on one side. Yeah, I like that.
Which had been discussed at one time, that along the street on the west, those lots that back up onto the existing development in the city might have duplexes on them. You know, that was discussed at a number of public hearings or public meetings. Okay.
Anything else for Scott? Scott, anything for us?
When is the next PNC meeting?
They meet, do they have a regularly scheduled meeting or just meet on call?
Meet on call.
So when you have things that you would like to present, let them know, and they can usually meet within 2-3 weeks. By the time we get notices out and everything.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the input.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Yep, does that say live on it?
Yes, I turned it on. Why?
People are saying they're not able to. Check here.
It's like there's 5 people on it.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, it is working.
Okay.
Really.
Anything else under citizens forum? Okay. Moving on to departmental reports, sheriff's office. Sorry, we took a little longer.
No, not a problem at all. I don't have anything for you guys this month. I haven't got the sheriff's office report yet. Usually they're a couple days late, so depending where the meeting lands, it takes a couple days, but when I get that, I'll follow up with Deb if there's anything concerned there. I know you guys have the events going on this weekend. I think right now the plan is we have 3 deputies on overtime to come down from 10 to like mid 12:30, something like that, if that sounds right, but I'll be one of the deputies. I'll be down here too on the weekend, so I don't know if you guys had any concerns of any potential problems or just proactive.
We just wanted to have officers there because we have had in the past,
Okay.
and we just wanted to make sure that we have them there now.
Yep.
We want to start it up again, so every year they come.
And I was down there last year, but it wasn't contract. I was just out on overtime working, so
Yeah.
I know we were there too, but. All right.
Perfect.
Anything for the sheriff's office?
I don't think so.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Thanks.
All right, the fire report, looks like they had 1 call with 3 people, no injuries or accidents, no maintenance at this time. Special events are taking trucks down to the park for Friday afternoon, boat settlers, nothing new on future plans, and the city doesn't have anything to do as well. Anything for Tony on under the fire department? EMS report. Total page outs for Maxwell is 10. Maxwell responded to 8. Average certified EMS personnel per call 1 to 2. 0 fire persons assist. Cambridge to Maxwell 2. EMS monthly meeting training attendance was 5. Truck check was complete. CQI was completed by Story County Medical Center. No vehicle maintenance, nothing from the council. Anything for Scott? Done. Library report. Looks like they had 129 books, 43 DVDs, 185 in attendance, 94 bridges, and 84 on hold. Let's see. Anything for the city on here? Anything for the library board?
Mary Ann, is that what the state library board? She's requested a copy of the July 2019 amendment, allowing 2 non-residents to be a part of the board of trustees.
Okay.
So I'll be working with Crystal to get that done.
Perfect.
And Deb has provided all that information to me, so we should be good.
And anything else for library board? Public Works, streets, price to fix 2nd Street Bridge over Indian Creek is $7,500. The price to fix washout on bike trail is $1,500. Going to use concrete railroad ties to extend wall and regrade to flow rainwater farther down the bike path. We pumped approximately 1.4 million gallons of water, sold about 1.1 million gallons. Got new wastewater permit for the water plant to deal with the backwash from the filter. Working with Wes to come up with a plan. Sewer, we pumped about 3 million gallons, cleaned 4,500 feet of sewer line on Baldwin, North, and parts of Maine. Anything for Tony on the public works side? City clerk. First batch of endpoints were put in, and updated newsletter went out.
The endpoints are the readers for the water meters, in case everybody doesn't know, that connect to the 5G network.
We also have a new sidewalk and stairs coming into City Hall, and a new water line as well. Anything for Devin D?
Was the water line leaking, or?
Yeah, when they dug it up, it was like quicksand. They dug up the,
Well, I heard that it was a wet hole.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they determined that the leak
It
was
was,
in the
it
water
wasn't
line.
the water line.
It wasn't the water line?
But
So we have
as
a new
long as you
water
have a
line.
hole dug, might as well replace it.
Page 2 of the treasurer's report. of the packet here.
Yep.
We've got FEMA wind disaster, about fourth one from the bottom, fifth one. There's a $98,000. Is that where we will end up biting the bullet on that, or is there still money coming?
There's still money coming. There's
Okay.
two or three projects still out
Okay.
to FEMA to approve to get the money.
Anything else? Wes, you're up.
All right. I'm gonna have to make this short. My voice is going. I'll do my best. Hopefully it's not illness, and it's the ill-advised cleaning up my chicken coop without the mask Saturday. So, I didn't get these to Deb in time, so I'm giving you your copies now of our regular engineering report. So we'll cut to the key items. One of them I forgot. I'm going to hit first because I forgot to put it on here. Tony mentioned in his report the EPA permit for the water plant. There's a new emphasis being put by the DNR on looking at waste streams from the water plants, which has kind of been overlooked in the past. Ours is no exception. It's been overlooked, so now they're looking at it, and so there's a waste stream there that's an issue. It looks like I still got to look into it a little bit more, but me and another engineer in the office looked at it briefly. It looks like the best approach is probably to pump that to the city system. Whether we can go through the co-op grounds or whether we have to go out around up Main Street. Otherwise, you're looking at putting in some kind of treatment system at the plant, which just doesn't make sense because you have a big, nice new treatment system just over by the lagoon. So, but I will be getting more information to you guys on that one as we look into that further depth. There's no, I won't say big hurry. I mean, it always comes faster than you can, but the compliance date on that, we've received the draft permit, but the compliance date is like 59 months from when they actually officially issue it. So you've got 5 years to address it and deal with it. So, but we will keep that on the forefront so we know where we're going and help planning and whatnot. Baldwin, I'm going to come back to. I did go out and take a look at the high school site last week just to bring you guys up to speed on that. They have addressed a lot of the issues that we had brought up. Some of the issues have addressed themselves with the weed growth. It's stabilized the site, whether that was on purpose or not. It does control the erosion, which is a good thing. They won't want to leave it that way because it's very weedy, but that part's there. They took care of the temporary fence. It was a site obstruction on the roadways. It looks like they've made a lot of progress on the site itself, so they should be coming close to clean up all of, getting to the complete construction soon. The one exception is the stockpile storage on the soccer field site. It looks like they probably moved some of that out of the right of way, but it's still a lot of stockpile materials. Rebar now is buried in the grass, so if anybody were to run through there and not see it, you could really injure yourself. We really recommend that we city somehow find a way to encourage them to at least secure that site, put a fence around it. I mean, the temporary fence they took down at the stadium site, put that around their storage site. If the soccer field is going to continue to be used for that, our recommendation. But that's probably the biggest thing that they haven't really addressed one way or another from our comments. There's some little things.
Because I think at least 2 letters, I believe, have been sent now to request them to move it to across the street.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing there. I would say that soccer site storage area. The Heart of Iowa Trail bridge repair sounds like Tony has been. We got some information to the Maxwell, John Maxwell. Sounds like maybe he's been talking with Tony and got him a price. It looks like from what I heard there, he's looking at maybe doing a retaining wall or a tie retaining wall. That's fine with us. I think that would still fit with the design intent that we looked at. We looked at gaping walls or a soil bag wall. Either way, it's got to be a constructed wall just because there's not toe to anchor anything in. So if they can do the tie wall for a similar price or for more cost effective, we wouldn't have any issues with that. I'll might pass on to Tony that I would recommend to make sure the ties are good ties so they have the longest life they can get. New ties aren't probably realistic, but you can get cheap used ties that you don't want to use, they won't last long. But if you get decent used ties, they'll be all right. And the bigger part of that is making sure that the grading at the top is graded so that it drains away from it, which they mentioned in Tony's report. So that looks like that's moving good there. We had our Woodlawn Stormwater Study public meeting last Wednesday. I felt like we had great turnout from the public. We don't always get public meetings that have that good a turnout. Sometimes it's crickets new. But so it sounds like the public is interested. Their preference from the feedback we got was for underground conveyance pipe system. So I think there's probably there might be some areas where we could maybe scale it back a little bit and maybe do some open ditch to save cost, but that would have to be looked at in the final design when we get there. So I think what I see as the next step on that project for you guys is looking at the capital improvements plan for that, schedule, funding, that sort of thing, and then we're available for whenever you need us to go any further or provide any input on that as you need it. The last one I'm gonna hit here is the Baldwin Street project. If you recall, we've got an SDBG grant to help with some of the roadway costs. We're getting a CDBG or looking to apply for a CDBG grant to offset some of the water costs for water main replacement. So we have been working on what those additional requirements are for those two funding streams. The biggest impact from the SDBG is instead of it being a local bid project, it now requires it to be a IDOT bid local systems project. So now we've gone from the plans were done to there's a lot more detail that the DOT requires. So I have a supplemental here that covers a lot of the other little things that's going to require. It totals up bigger than I thought it would be, but it is what it is, and we can discuss it. We can discuss ways to keep it down too. Again, I apologize for not getting this to you sooner, but we're not even on the action item for this week or this month because July was a short month for me. So we'll have to act on it next month, but take a look at that, cruise through it. If you have any questions, let me know. We can talk, we can discuss on the concerns you had. The big things that we have to do, the additional requirements is converting the plans to an IDOT standard plan set, which means using their specifications, using their bid items, using their TPMS system. It's a web-based bidding. That's the big thing for them. We've got the water main design included in here to do the water main replacement for the CDBG funding. There's a utility coordination items the DOT requires. The second biggest thing in there is the environmental impact assessment. And this is one thing, if you recall, we had previous conversations. The CDBG and the SDBG both have similar environmental review requirements. So when we got from both of them, now instead of just having that cost one going towards one funding, it does dual purpose, if you will. So so the requirements that they're going to have there is we need to do wetland delineation, wetland stream delineation. We have to do cultural resources assessment, phase 1 assessment, site assessment. There's a threatened and endangered species habitat, and then there's a phase 1 environmental site assessment. From the best we can determine, that's the requirements that we're going to need, barring any crazy thing like we find, ancient remains in the cultural assessment that should get us right. That should dinosaurs, Indian burial mounds, whatever. That should get us what we need for the review or for the approvals on that one. Also, because now we're going through the federal FHWA DOT process, the easement that we need for the storm sewer outlet, we have to go through a more official process. I think before, when we had talked with you guys, it was it's Christensen's property, and there was going to be the city participate in the discussions to get that easement through. We got to make sure that we do it on the DOT's schedule and process, and that means notifications and all that stuff. So that adds a little bit of work there to create the right plats and the right documents and all that. So that's included in that as well. There is still some opportunity there if the city wanted to do some of the negotiation work there. We don't have to do that. We have that included in here to do that negotiation work for the acquisition of those easements. So there's some scope adjustment there. If the city wanted to be more involved in that, you can be still. And then we also went ahead and added in the construction services, which was to a certain extent some of the stuff you're going to have to do anyway. I think we had it in some of the planning numbers for the construction. We went ahead and just put it in here so that you guys can see all the costs up front that it's going to take to get this project through to construction. The construction services, because of the FHWA and the DOT, are probably about 50%, 100% higher, well, about twice as much as they would normally be with a local project. Because you've got the DOT audit at the end, you've got all the DOT, what do they call it? I've only done it a couple times. Spencer's done it quite more than me. The Doc Express system they use for approvals and submittals and things like that. So we went ahead and put that in there. Coordinated with Simmering Corey, who it looks like will be the grant administrator for the CDBG. They will cover a lot of the stuff for the Davis-Bacon wages that works for both the DOT and the CDBG. So we're not doubling up on work that they're doing there. So that's taken out of there. But I rambled on longer than I wanted to there, but take a look at that. Let us know what you got questions, or anything you want to clarify or change. We can.
Wes, we didn't have the DOT involved before, and now we do. Is that?
Yes. Yep.
And the reasoning, even if it's not a state highway.
The reasoning is because of the funding for the STBG grant,
Which is how much?
which is $240,000. So it's
And the community development block grant would be 250,
it'd be $300,000.
300.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about
About $540,000 swing to the project. Although there's about probably $150,000 in costs, all said and done, to get that $540,000. So I think on the net, we're better than we would have been. It's just now it's got to come from different sources and that kind of
the
thing.
net is still positive if we are funded.
Right.
And if we're not funded, then we've spent $150,000 in additional engineering and no return.
You're talking on the GO funding side for the city's portion. Yes. And that's where I sent some stuff to Tiana. I think I saw on the agenda here, there was maybe a discussion item on some of the GO bonding council. We can, obviously we can hold off and not do any more than we need to now. We're getting kind of, if we want to do a March letting next year, we're getting up to the point where we need to really kick things into high gear to get them done. But we can certainly hold off and make sure that you guys have got your GO and the city's portion of that funding in place before we go any further with it.
I don't think the GO will be a problem. What happens if we aren't funded through community development block grant, or we don't get the other DOT funding?
Sure.
We've spent $150,000 in order to comply, so that we're eligible, but being eligible does not guarantee that you'll receive.
Right. The STBG, we have been approved for receipt of that.
Okay.
That's a fix. The $240,000, they have given us the award letter. That is ours as long as we meet the requirements.
And so right now we're at about $150,000 expense and $250,000. So we're still to the black on that.
Yeah, just barely, but it is still the black, right? The CDBG, I'll have the conversation with Justin and Simmering Corey just to make sure that, hey, what's your gut feel on this? They do these all the time. Do we have a good shot at this? And get his feedback on that, and I'll get back with you on that to give you like you said, we're still in the net, but barely with just the one. We get the other one, we're sitting a lot better, but I can double check and find out for you on that. Kind of give us a good confidence level. Last time I talked with him, to me, the impression I got was pretty positive. But as with anything, funding sources these days, they get more and more competitive, it seems, at times. So I'll check and get back to you guys.
I still think it's a great project and it's essential, but we need to be moving forward on it. I just wanted to make sure that the additional engineering cost was covered adequately.
Yeah. The engineering, and I will say that for the CDBG side, for the water main design and the prep for that, If we, for worst case scenario, devil's advocate here, if we were not to get the CDBG award, that construction part could be pulled from the project fairly easy because it'll be a separate division. The planning and the design costs are sunk at that point, but the construction you wouldn't have to be committed to.
Okay.
That could always be pulled because it stands alone. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from us? Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Parks and open spaces, anything for them aside from what is already on the agenda?
Electrician for the spotlights is hung up on one, bigger projects, and two, the part or the piece that's needed to convert it into something. I don't understand the language, but still moving forward.
Anything else? Perfect. Okay, we will go to business then. Presentation concerning the Story County Housing Trust, followed by discussion action to seek grant funding. Greg, I think you're up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm glad to be here in front of you again. Mayor and Council, thank you for the time tonight. I'm just going to overview bird's eye view of the Story County Housing Trust and then answer any questions you might have. I view this tonight as more of a kickoff to your understanding of what the program can do and how we start the process. And some of the action items I'll cover too, that and also what he just mentioned, because it kind of dovetails into what the Housing Trust can provide to Maxwell. So the Story County Housing Trust is an organization that is a pass-through, locally controlled, that uses IPA funds. And what IPA funds are is Iowa Finance Authority. So it's state funding that passes through every year to this organization to be used for local projects. It's very, very used widely in Story County. Collins is a well-known one that's used it a lot. Other communities as well across the county. And any funds that aren't used get returned back to the organization to be used again for other projects. So the money is to be used. There's no money that's lost every year. It goes back into the fund and then it's turned back out again for new projects. Case in point, every year they have an application process for housing projects. Collins uses it for rehab. So you can use it for rehabbing homes that meet a criteria and threshold if they need things like owner-occupied, what we call O&O. So owner-occupied homes, if they need new heaters, new air conditioners, new plumbing, things like that, they can get up to a certain amount of assistance to help them because they're no longer financially able to do it themselves. If they're retired on a limited income, if they're disabled in their home place, these are funds that are used for those type of projects, and it helps the community as a whole bring up the neighborhoods in the homes themselves. So it also benefits you as a community, as you as city elected officials, because it prevents homes from going down the path where they're unredeemable. So case in point, if you have a home that reaches a certain tipping point and unable to be put any money into by the homeowner moves out, the home's still abandoned, it still falls on you as elected officials and using tax dollars to demolish it and clean it up. This program is used to stop that process, make it a livable home again, and continue providing revenue and also another home for your community to use for young families if they so choose to use it. There's also rental assistance programs. If they have a rental program and they qualify, there's also rental assistance, heating and cooling. There was a program used last year by this organization for that type of program. So, when we had a really bad cold snap and utilities spiked for everyone, this was an emergency program up to $3,000 used by the organization to help these people pay their utility bills. So it helps a lot of income limited families and older residents keep their homes, stay in their homes, provide for their homes, and keep using them for the community. It resolves every year. So every year they go through a process. The application process starts early spring, March, April, and then goes back around again. And then every year it goes through the same process. I'll stop there for any questions because that's a lot of information right there.
So the funds that are available for people in Maxwell, is that like a set amount of funding based on the capital, or is it based on LMI?
It kind of varies depending on what you want to use it for. So if you want to apply for a certain amount, and that's the thing, there's no set amount automatically allocated to Maxwell. You would have to apply for the program. But the money's there for up to a certain amount of time for a number of years to be used for that process until it's gone. So it's not like, I want, for lack of a better term, ARPA, 26 hits, they're gone if you don't use them. You have a set time frame to use it, so you know that you're not going to be yanked from you in the middle of a project during that time frame. You have the money there, and then you have a certain time frame to use it. The limited, and sometimes if they have the last year with the utility thing, that was a set time frame because it was only used to be used during the winter time. So during the cold months, and then it lapsed at a time frame and it was no longer available. But the funds during that time were available to be used for the program. IFA funnels these dollars through the Story County Housing Trust to communities like Maxwell, specifically do help every single year. Now, here's the thing, is that the application process goes every calendar year. So the next application process for this program is 2024. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is that gives you time, because there's a lot that goes into this to start. But once you get in the program and start becoming the process, it becomes easier and easier every year. Once you identify the properties, once you start your program, every year you start the application process, and you start every single year going through it, and it becomes a consistent revenue stream for the community to use for your rehab and renovation projects. So
you said that's calendar year, not
calendar year, not fiscal year, correct. And there's no local match for owner occupied. So there's nothing that has to be put up by the city of Maxwell for the O&O project side of it. So I'm saying 2024, right? The reason I say dovetail at the beginning of this was I noticed on here you have a public Simmering Corey survey plus the CDBG grant. Simmering Corey's survey to you for your LMI is good for up to 2 years. So your LMI survey from Simmering Corey starts now, your 2-year clock starts, and now you're into 2026. Now you have a viable LMI survey for Simmering Corey to use to start your process for the Story Housing Company. And then you can start using it for CDBG for that 2 years. And then you can start using it for other things. So if you use Story County housing money, say with, I want to say HUD money or any other type of federal funding you want to use, you can mix match this so you can dovetail it to create bigger and bigger projects. A lot of communities use it for quick and things that might not seem big, but are very surmountable if given enough attention. So an older lady that's maybe in her 80s that's retired, and all she needs is a new water heater. Boom, keeps in her home, keeps her in another home, keeps her kids from having to take the home, keeps you from having to demolish the home, because homes that don't have a hot water heater, don't have air, don't have plumbing, breaks and things start happening, and it dovetails, and then before long the home's gone, and then it becomes your problem. So these programs are designed to help you on a year-to-year basis.
Help with winterizing too.
Helps with winterizing, energy
And
efficiency. Yep. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and I say 2024 for these programs, but they're also every year they have money returned or money that comes back in. So the committee comes back and says, we want to start this new project. So these are the standard projects they have every calendar year, but that doesn't mean there might not be a special project or additional IFA funding, or something comes from the state, from the Fed. The federal government could say these dollars can be used through IFA for this, and suddenly there's another $50,000 that IFA funnels to Story County. So that's why I'm saying, once the process starts and once you're in the pipeline, that becomes easier and easier for you to tap these dollars every time around.
So if I understand correctly, if I listened
I hope you did,
close
Steve.
enough, we have to have a low and moderate income survey to show that there is a sufficient low and moderate income population to be eligible.
Not on the standard program, because the standard program's on the O&O and the rental. The rental rules are different than, I want to say rental landlord rules are different than the owner occupied. If you're a landlord, you still have access to some funding, but it's a different category and different rules than if you own your home. The LMI survey that I was referencing for Simmering Corey that you're looking at is just another piece of this puzzle that makes available to tap additional dollars.
Okay.
So you can use it for CDBG in the future. You can apply for this CDBG, and then next year you apply for another one. I mean, the lifespan of these surveys are up to 2 years, so it gives you a lot of lifespan for the money you're putting into it.
The owner occupied repair, is there an income test for the owner occupied individual?
So the maximum per home on the owner occupied is up to $8,000, or there's a 5-year forgivable lien up to 4. So they can tap up to $8,000 in return for their home. That's,
But there's an income requirement.
And there's an income requirement.
There is an
So-
Maximum
income
income
requirement.
requirement, yeah.
So if you're looking at that on the available, on the owner occupied, it has to be 30% area medium income, 31, or there's a 50% MI, number of units 51%. So there are caps and limits. So it can't be everyone that taps these dollars. But your simmering core review is going to show that, and it helps in the broad scheme of things. But when you get into this, when you start in 2024, you're going to have to do individual based stuff for the O&Os. So they're going to have to individually qualify for it.
The renter side, we have a number of rental properties in the community that are very run down. And to get the landlord to apply or to fix them up would probably take a little bit of incentive from the city, where we may start filing on them that they have a dilapidated structure and the city could take it.
Start 620 proceedings. And,
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and that may encourage them to apply for the program and so forth. You said that the application date is March and April, and then so March and April of 2023, and that's why the funds would not be available until calendar year 2024.
Correct.
When we do the application in March and April of 2023, do we have a windshield survey of the houses and an indication of how many dilapidated structures? How
How do you frame
how
the
much?
program?
Yeah.
How do you frame the program is unique to every community. So, Collins received approximately $50,000 for their program. Zering had approximately a certain amount of money too. So the guidelines and your target is up to you as a community itself. So the guidelines are set that it's going to be used for these certain homes according to those guidelines for income. But what you want to target as a community is up to you on the application. If you just want to target O&O just to get the ball rolling, next year and next time around you target rentals. This is a process when you're coming into it where I suggest strongly that you ease into it, to show people what it can do, to show people how easy it is, to show people, you as a community are using this fund for these reasons, and then you get buy-in from those rentals. And then also too, I hate, for lack of a better comparison, it also puts community pressure on those landlords to come up to those standards as well. Because if they have 3 homes, one's a rental in the middle, but they're 2 owner occupied on either side that use the program, and now they look much nicer, that one in the middle now looks worse, and it impacts their property values. So it helps you as a community long term.
And the Central Iowa Planning Alliance, I can't remember what it's called.
MIPA.
Okay.
I just like saying the word MIPA.
Yeah, what used to be the Central Iowa Association of Local Governments, that turned into something else.
Turned in.
Yeah. But it's now MIPA.
It's got to be government when you have acronyms like that left and right, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to Caleb, and he said that he'd come down and presented and talk to you as a community on some of the options that MIPA is available for you to use.
And this would be assisting us in putting a program together. This would be something down their alley. Valley, or is this something that we would go out and pay exorbitant amounts to Snyder and Associates, or?
So here's the beauty of this. MIPA, Mid-Iowa Planning Alliance, is located in the same office space as Des Moines MPO, which is Andrew Collins. Andrew Collins runs the Story County Housing Trust. That's who holds the contract for it. So basically, when you use MIPA, it's right next door to Andrew in his office running the Story County Housing Trust. So for this case, for this specific program, Andrew Collins would be your point of contact. But he is working right alongside Caleb on MIPA. So again, that dovetails. So MIPA goes out and you utilize them to chase some other grant funds. He's coordinating with Andrew in the same office while you're using him for Story County. So that way you're not paying exorbitant fees. Your MIPA dollars of $84 a year pays for Caleb, and there's no additional cost to Andrew to do this. There's no local match required. So there's no exorbitant fees or extra additional engineering costs for Snyder unless you take on additional projects if you want to do something massive or something outside that scope. But again, Andrew and Caleb would give you a case-by-case basis, so you go on with your eyes open.
And I believe right now Story County is contributing to the Housing Trust for Maxwell, on behalf of Maxwell, Cambridge, several different communities.
Yeah.
Smaller communities, just to keep the funds
Flowing.
there.
That's why there's no local match or anything required. I mean, so you're covered under that part of the contract by Story County.
It's a great program.
So the starting point, it would be to sit down with somebody that knows what they're doing to help put a program together so the council can review and approve it so that it can be submitted in March or April.
Correct. You were there at the last Story County Economic Development Group. We are looking at a housing economic development summit in September. That would be, my plan is to invite Andrew up there and also Caleb from MIPA and MPO to come give a presentation on what they provided services to you as a smaller community in Story County. However, talking to Andrew today, he is more than willing to come in and talk to you directly as well. So if that time frame is not quick enough, by all means, we can set up a meeting with Andrew to come in and start the process on that.
Didn't we appoint a council person to attend the housing meetings on behalf of Maxwell?
We did. I'm trying to remember who that was. It was
Me.
me, Doug.
It's Doug, and then yeah, I was gonna say it's
You're the
Doug, and then I'm the alternate.
Housing Trust or the SIRHA?
Both.
Because I know you're on SIRHA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Housing Trust is actually run by Brenda Dreyer in our office, in my office. The meetings and everything is online. It's a very, very efficient organization. They got this down cold. So once we start Maxwell working this process, it's going to be very nice for you to start seeing how it works. I know 2024 seems like a long time. It's not.
There's additional funds.
And there's additional funds in the meantime, like I mentioned. So there's stuff to keep you busy in the meantime. I'm just saying the next calendar year of the cycle is 2024. So there's plenty to do and get you involved leading up to that first official cycle.
Yeah, to have it done in March and April when we only meet once a month, and starting in December, we're dealing with budgets, means that we have maybe 4 meetings in order to get the thing put together and approved by the council. So March and April will come faster than we think.
So you're saying you want to have more meetings in February and March when it's negative 50 degrees and
We always end up with extra meetings because of budget, so.
But planning ahead the next 2 or 3 months is when we need to get on this.
yes.
Yeah.
So our goal is to have that Housing and Economic Development Summit in September. If you wish to have something quicker and start the process, I'm more than happy to coordinate with Andrew and start, and we could be here, in September if you wish to start that.
Would you feel that it would be worthwhile to have a little one-on-one before the housing and economic summit, so that
I think it'd be
You
good to
feel
get us
you're
grounded a little
grounded?
more.
Okay. Would you like that as a regular council meeting on your monthly in addition to everything, or a special one?
No, just the committee, I think,
Just the
to
committee.
get it started.
Okay. So I will set that up and I will
And
coordinate.
you have Doug's email address.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I sent all my contact out to you earlier today. So everyone has my cell, my email, and everything else as well. So if you have any questions or additional info or anything else in the meantime, by all means, reach me. My phone's buzzed twice already from Zarian today while I was in here. So I am more than happy to talk anytime you need to.
And the only action that would be called for tonight would be to, and have, Megan and, Doug, set up a meeting at their earliest convenience to, with either Brenda or whomever to, get grounded so that, so we can move forward on this.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Megan, discussion. Hearing none. Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
All right, I will be reaching out to you too, and we'll be setting something up.
Great, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Item
Thank you
7,
both for being here.
Thank you guys.
And you can leave anytime you want.
Stick
The
around.
rest of the meeting.
Come on, it's kind of nice being on this side of the table.
Thank
you very much.
Yep, thanks.
Enjoy our new steps and sidewalk.
Yes,
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
I did a great job
When was that done?
Oh, just this last week.
last week.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7B, discussion action on 2022 legislative changes to the ordinance. You can see that there are two, House File 2130 and Senate File 2374. House File 2130, the changes that have been amended were to change restrictions on the use of ATVs and UTVs on the streets within the city. Additionally, the new law prohibits the charging of fees for permits to operate ATVs and UTVs. However, it does not prohibit the requirement of a permit, just the charging of a fee. Senate File 2374 relating to the retail alcohol license. Changes to code regarding retail alcohol licenses and change in terminology that impact multiple sections of the city code. Those are the two legislative changes that will be affecting the city codes. You can see that there are some other references listed down below as well. What Cimarine and Corey does for us, they do the code modifications, and you can see that order form on the back. So what we are asking today is for the authorization for myself to sign this so we can update our city codes.
Can we do it on our own without this? Would save us $700 if we could.
No.
We can't, okay.
I'd imagine they file it for us too one day. Wouldn't there be some sort of file that has?
What they do is they take the actual House file and Senate file, which is in legislative language, and they write it to city code language that is consistent with our ordinance and passes legal muster. For us to do it ourselves, it's not always a direct copying of what's in the state code and putting it in a city code. I would not want to do it. And so, yeah, $700, in my opinion, that is well spent. And it's not only them writing it so that it fits our code, it's also providing us copies so that we can insert them into our code. My biggest problem is that we've had this agreement since our 2019 code, and I haven't seen any updates from the 2020, 2021 legislative changes. Have we gotten anything, Deb?
Yep.
And so have they been handed out?
I didn't know who had books.
Okay, so did we get the PDF?
We've got a disc.
Well, I'd like to take a look at the disc. If there's a PDF version on there, then that should be shared with all the council people, because I think they all have access to a PDF copy of the code.
Was it updated on the website?
I don't have a disc way to put the
Oh,
disc in.
gotcha. Okay, I get you. That makes sense.
Well, provide the disc to me and I'll make sure that, I'll see what's on it and make sure it gets distributed. I move that the mayor's authorized to sign the order for the 2022 legislative changes.
That's a motion made by Steve,
Second,
second by Megan. Discussion. Hearing none. Megan,
yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
I have some discussion.
Oh, yeah.
There's two questions on this.
Yes.
We do have currently required permits. Do you want to retain the permits and delete the fee?
Did we have a fee in the first place?
Yes.
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 What was Deb's question?
Do we want to continue to require permits?
Yeah.
Do they have to be registered with the state before they can,
They should be registered with the county.
or the county? Yeah.
Is that enough?
I would assume that that would be enough. And
So
then
do
at
away
that
with
point,
the
it'd be-
permit and the fee.
and that, in that case, if they're breaking the law, then it falls
Then
under
it's
the county.
Falls under the county.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
There we go.
Maybe
All right.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
So we can continue to require a permit, which takes staff time, and we cannot cover the cost of that staff time with a fee.
Correct.
Well, I would say that we eliminate the requirement for permits,
You read all of our minds.
You read all of our
Yeah.
minds, Steve.
because if you can't cover the cost of the fee, then we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how effective the whole thing is going anyway. I see a lot of ATVs, golf carts and whatnot driving on the street without the proper flags that are required by the ordinance.
Sure.
And I have no idea whether they have a permit or not, because you have to stop them to find out.
Yep.
So,
For sure. Okay, 7C, discussion action on LP contract. You can see that there is the 22-23 LP gas contract. We have to decide what contract option to take and payment method.
don't we normally do the prepaid, Deb?
Yes.
Move that we sign the contract with prepaid.
Moved by Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lauren, discussion. Hearing none. Doug,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
Discussion action on permit for fireworks during Old Settlers. In front of you, you do have the code of ordinance, the certificate of liability insurance, as well as the fireworks display agreement. And I believe, Deb, I think what you told me is we don't necessarily have a permit that we give out, but we do give a letter out stating that they can use city property to blow things up, correct?
Where will it be set off?
I don't know, I don't think we have really received very much communication as far as
I was
fireworks.
told
The landfill.
landfill or yard waste.
The yard waste, so which is where it was done a few years ago. They will set up on, in the yard waste area, and the city will have to make sure that we provide some barricades so that nobody can enter that area other than the J&M displays. But other than that, they appear to have provided all the information, and I move approval of the use of city property for the fireworks display, which is a requirement that they have to have the permission of the property owner.
That's a motion made by Steve, second by Doug. Discussion. Hearing none. Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
E, discussion and action on acceptance of bid repair for Second Street Bridge.
Which we didn't get,
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So,
but, Tony mentioned it in his,
oh, that's the one for,
7,500.
yeah, the Maxwell's.
Okay.
Can we, do we need an official bid to?
No.
Accept, okay. So then I will take a motion to accept that bid from the
So moved.
Maxwell. Hold on, let me find it again.
To accept the work proposal.
So that was a motion made by Doug. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lauren. Discussion. Hearing none. Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
7F, discussion and action on opening on the Board of Adjustment / Planning and Zoning. It looks like there's an opening on BOA and P&Z due to an expired seat. Pat Mead is showing an interest in staying that position. He recently posted for position and received only one applicant, who is now a board member. The recommendation is to reappoint Pat Mead to the Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments.
So moved.
Moved by Steve,
Second.
second by Lauren. Discussion. Hearing none. Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Item 7G, discussion and action on 2 openings on the Parks and Open Spaces Board. It looks like there are 2 openings on Parks. I think this is supposed to say Parks and Open Spaces Board. Due to expired seats, Jody Gass and Mike Gustafson have showed an interest in staying in those positions. They still have 2 seats that are not filled. That means there are 4 seats open at this time. The recommendation is to reappoint Jody and Mike to the Parks and Open Spaces Board. Can I get a motion?
I motion.
Motion by Megan,
Second.
second by Doug. Discussion. Hearing none. Doug,
Yes.
Steve,
This does not create a conflict of interest, since there is no financial remuneration. So I feel like I can vote on this, and if I vote no, I cannot go
You
home.
cannot go
Correct.
home.
So yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
All right, discussion and action on variance for 216 Broad Street setback. So according to this, the property owner of 216 Broad Street is requesting a variance to build a detached garage of 672 square feet, 24 by 28, in the rear yard of the property. Property is currently zoned in the industrial district. The variance request is to allow the setback less than the required 6 feet of setback. The Board of Adjustments Committee held a public hearing on May 17th. And I believe you have the meeting minutes in the back in which they approved this. So now it is just on to the city approval.
The code says that what the city council can do is refer something back to the Board of Adjustment if we feel that they need to reconsider their action, or we accept their action. And I think that they did a great job in their holding the hearing, investigating the need for the variance and documenting the variance. So I move that we accept their action.
It's a motion made by Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Megan. Discussion. Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Next one, discussion and action on selecting a project for the rural enrichment grant application. In front of you, do you have the rural enrichment grant that, I think, did we get this from MIPA? Or did I just see this in an
Story.
email?
Story
Oh.
County Community Foundation sent this to us, didn't they?
Story County Economic Development
Got it.
Yeah.
sent it, it was discussed at their last meeting. And the timeline is ticking. The application deadline is September 1st. And they will grant $2 for every dollar that the city puts into it, if I remember correctly.
Maximum
Up
is
to-
20,000.
And the maximum is 20,000. Is Wes still here?
Yep.
I was a little flippant earlier about expensive Snyder.
Oh, you're fine. I'm an engineer. We get it all the time.
Are you aware of what this program is?
I am not.
Okay.
No.
It supports small town quality of life in projects that are that benefit a community. And we've had a number of projects in the past that, as a council, we felt that we could move forward on. We've talked about some paving on the bike trail. We've talked about doing some improvements to the food stand, to the bandstand. We have any number of projects. But what we need to do, if we're going to apply for this, is we need to pick a project and figure where we're gonna come up with funding. Our 1/3. The way they discussed it at the Story County Economic Development meeting is that it's highly likely that if you put a good program together, that you'll get funded. So now the question is, of the thousands of things that we've discussed in the past, what do we want to do? And is this something that we should, I mean, if council do their homework, they have some great ideas, we can discuss it now, or maybe we should come back in a work session and pull out some of the old capital improvement programs information that we had and rescore them and decide what we want to do. But we only have like 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I think you're right too, Steve, in the fact that, we have the church stand that needs some work. band shell needs to work, and talking with somebody on Saturday, it sounds like if we were to build or try to repair the bandstand that is down there, it can't have walls due to FEMA. And so I evidently right now we're out of compliance with that right now. But so just being open air band shell.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It, yeah, I don't know whether it can't have walls, because it's not in the floodway, so there is no flow. But you have to it has to allow water to flow in and out, which it currently does. And you could always put slats on the back that would allow flow, but there is no flow down there. It just comes up and goes down. So,
If I recall, when we did the other shelter down there, the criteria is in the floodplain, it shouldn't cause damage to the structure. So the floodway, we couldn't do walls down there in the floodway because you're right, the flow has to go through.
the bin,
But
the big
bin,
bin
right,
is in the floodway.
floodway. In the floodplain, you could develop in that. It's got to be either elevated or constructed in a way that doesn't cause damage when it does flood.
But the church stand is not in the floodway, so just that little difference.
Right on the edge.
50 feet.
Yep.
So do you know how much the Betas band shell cost?
I do not.
Is
I'm
it
not-
just 4 posts
it's-
with an awning?
It's a pavilion, it's
Yep.
4 beautiful posts with a roof type engineered to make the sound
Yep, sound good.
great.
Nancy had a picture of one from up in the Charles City, Mason City area. That really, it was a neat construction building like you're talking about.
But I think,
It's open.
too, when we were looking at, those were like anywhere between 50 and 100.
50 and 80.
And so the max we could go on this would be 30.
Right.
We could probably go for more, but we would only get 20,000.
Do you want to, I mean, Parks and Open Spaces has always talked about the restrooms, and we know that the restrooms could use a little TLC inside and out. Or the church stand. I think those are your two focal points.
One thing that certainly could be done down at the church stand, and I don't know how high a priority that would get, is right now the cement pad under the old part of the church stand is lower than the road. And so it drains and puddles on that cement. Well, if we just lay another essential slab on top of what's there, we have enough headroom that it's not going to be a problem. And we do a big enough slab that it goes underneath both of them. And that would certainly benefit the church stand property. It doesn't make it any more waterproof or anything, but it makes it, when it's not flooded, makes it so that at least you don't have dirt that has washed onto it. And if you put that big of a slab on that covers both of those awning areas, you might be around $20,000.
Is this something MIPA would be able to assist us with, obviously, or is that
Also, we can reach out to
Caleb?
First thing we have to have is a project. Or a couple projects so that he can advise us as to which is going to be more practical funding.
The League of Cities website has some information on this. There's several different programs, 20 for this, 50 for this, 10 for this. I don't know, maybe you've seen that. That I'm just reading through it here, and it might spark some ideas for you guys on projects.
Lauren,
Do you want to send it over?
you being there every Sunday, which would be used the most? The church stand, the bandstand, the restrooms, or any other ideas? Which do you feel would most benefit the park? and the people who use it the most?
Benefit the park.
No, the people who use the park. the
Well,
most.
obviously, you know, as far as time and what specific area gets used the most, I would say efficiency wise and the amount of time that gets used the most is obviously the bandstand for the 2.5 hours. But that doesn't mean that the church stand during Old Settlers doesn't get used or any other rental time.
Oh, yeah, it
you
gets
know?
used, but the most benefit would be to do what? That you're there more than the rest of us are.
I would think that the restrooms would benefit
I'm
more
saying
people than
restrooms. As far as
anybody else.
benefiting people and the citizens of Maxwell and the people who utilize the playground on a daily basis,
Right.
I would say bathrooms. If you're going further down into the park, I mean, yes, I would love to see the bandstand replaced or fixed up.
Are the bathrooms in the floodplain? Or
I don't know.
Should
The-
be.
Stop beacon. I'm just assuming I can pull it up on.
Does Beacon show the flood?
No.
yes,
They got
They
that.
does?
You can show that now?
I know, just as a side note, Kathy Smith has been working on getting a quote for some just smaller repairs like siding to the church stand or siding to the bathrooms or siding for the bandstand. And she's been working and looking into a Story County Community Foundation grant that's up to $6,000. So if this rural enrichment grant trumps that, and we focus on one of those projects or one specific unit, then I can let her know that she can
Yes.
move on with a different area. So it is.
that's
what-
not the rest,
The restroom
Is that the 100-year or is that the 500-year?
that's the 100-year. So where's the restroom?
The restroom's right here.
Dead center.
Oh, yeah, I see this Crowder now.
Mhm.
I was thinking that it was in the 100-year, because I remember, the flood of 92. It coming up almost, well, it did not cover that whole area, but it almost did. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we were to do anything with the restrooms, we may have to elevate it. Looks like another 4 feet or so.
Or you make it of materials that are not damageable.
Which is probably what it's made out of block right now.
Concrete block.
Is it a good idea to have sewer inlet underwater?
That may not, it's not a good idea, but
Well-
that may not qualify as flood proof either.
We would have to do a lot of work because there is a sewer dump there too, right on the
Yeah. for
street.
the-
RV, or
RV,
RV
yeah.
dump station.
Hmm.
Yep.
The nice thing about that is, if it floods that much, you can just wade out there and stick a rag in it.
I mean,
That'll be
RV
your
dump
job.
stations,
That's your-
it's more or less
Your
just a
job.
pipe, so
Yeah.
you can get
We're gonna
fittings
give
and
you
things
that
on
one.
top of those pretty cheap to raise it.
Well, I think we need to do probably another work session unless.
I-
you guys have-
That's not on time.
Yeah, I would think it'd be a good idea. I wouldn't want to do it this week. But sometime next week, and I can certainly make the Legion Hall available, so that we can all sit around the table and throw plans together or ideas. If we can decide on one next week, then one or two, then in another week, we can, get some assistance to write the thing up, and we may make the September 1st deadline.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else have anything for that? All right, hearing none. Item 7J is discussion action on applying for city bridge program for the bridge on 325th Street. So, probably like, what the heck is this?
Is this are you aware of this, Wes?
So there are two closely spaced bridges on 325th Street over Rock Creek that are partially owned by the city of Maxwell. The East Bridge has a superstructure that is
It's the
rated
one right out here,
for,
the first gravel road, if you take it.
On South Street.
Okay,
Can
on South
you
Street.
get it up there?
Yes.
There you go.
I don't.
It's all the way out by Garrett
I
Plunkett.
feel like you're in the middle of attention.
so it's rated as poor, so this makes it eligible for some federal programs. The IDOT annually makes federal aid and state funds available for the purpose of reducing the number of poor bridges, formerly known as structurally deficient.
That's not the one they're talking about.
They're talking
No.
about both of them.
No.
That one's not the poor one, though. The poor one's down by our land. So further west, past Tinker's Lakes.
So it's not Rock Creek that crosses it, or is it?
Yeah,
No, it is Rock
Yeah.
Creek that crosses it, right
there
there.
you go.
Okay.
Let me take this floodplain so you can see a little better.
There we go.
Mm.
That's the poor. The other one's not even rated poor.
And
It's completely out.
I thought that they were talking about these two bridges,
It looks like
that one, and this is the one that needs to be repaired. That, when I read it, that's the impression that I got.
That's what it is.
Pardon?
That's what it is.
Okay,
Because the other one, we can't touch because it's a historical bridge.
Right.
So it'll be shut down for the lifespan.
But that's all one bridge.
no,
It's two separate.
It's
two separate bridges, believe it or not.
Yeah, I don't, because the railing's all one,
Yes,
all the way
but
across.
here
It's
is
one bridge.
one bridge, and then you have this dry land in between, and then here's the other bridge. So
I asked.
it certainly looks like one bridge, but it's two separate things under the road with a dirt in between. I agree.
They are going to try to get the DOT to fund the replacement of both bridges if selected. But they need to know if we're willing to help by submitting the letter to get the process started.
I move that the mayor's authorized to submit the letter to get the process started.
It's a motion made by Steve,
Second.
second by Megan, or Lauren, discussion. Hearing none. Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes,
Doug.
Yes.
Who seconded?
Lauren
Lauren.
did.
You're going too fast. I can't read
Sorry.
that fast.
Sorry, Deborah.
Item 7K, approval of resolution setting the public hearing on development of a community development and housing needs assessment.
Wes, would you like a copy of this letter, email, and attachment?
Yeah, I wouldn't, the bridge
Deb
one,
has it for you.
yeah, that'd be nice, just in case it comes up again, I can know what I'm talking about.
So this is the resolution setting time place for a public hearing on the approval of community development and housing needs assessment for the city of Maxwell. This is to go in association with the CDBG application. And it is officially set for September 12th.
6:30 PM. Move the resolution.
Moved by Steve. Second by Doug. Discussion. Hearing none. Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes,
Doug,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
All right, item 7L, approval of setting a resolution setting a public hearing on submission of CDBG application. Again, this has to do with the CDBG on Baldwin Street.
Move approval of the resolution.
Moved approval by Steve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Doug, discussion. Hearing none. Lauren,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Okay. 7M, discussion action on hiring a bond counsel for Geo Bond on Baldwin Street. So obviously we don't have the full, what did we say it was gonna cost? 1.2 million?
Yeah, 1.2, 1.3, somewhere in there.
So we're gonna have to go out to bond to get the funding for that. We just have to,
And the bond would only cover a portion of it.
Yeah.
Like $500,000 or something like that.
And whatever's left over after the CDBG and the
SDBG.
All the BGs.
Yeah.
XYZ. Move that, we retain the bond counsel for the purpose of, making sure we eliminate any potential conflicts prior to the public hearing.
Moved by Steve,
Second.
second by Megan, discussion. Hearing none. Megan,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lauren.
Yes.
Discussion and action on hiring Simmery Corey to survey team for LMI survey. This is needed to be done for the CDBG grant. We can do it on our own, or we can spend $1,500 to $2,000 and have someone else do it for us and make sure that we get everybody's income. But
You said the options are to hire these people or do what?
or go door knocking ourselves and
I move that we hire.
Yeah.
The simmering coring, because if we were to do it ourselves, it would cost much more than that. Since we are inexperienced.
Yeah.
We'd probably end up doing it 2 or 3 times.
that's a motion made by Steve,
Second.
second by Lauren, discussion. Hearing none. Doug.
Yeah.
Steve,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Megan.
Yes.
Discussion and action on nuisance properties. Any updates?
Deb, I don't have any updates for mine, but I do have a question how, help me with the name. Safe
Builders.
Builders. How's that going? I was gonna call you last week and completely forgot.
The what?
Safe Builders.
I had 3 or 4 properties.
I have one report for Shills,
Okay,
or just whatever her name. It's not Shills, it's Zoe,
Zoe.
312 Maxwell.
Yep.
It's the only report I've received back so far.
I've driven past 26 Jennings, which is Bob Heights, and it appears to be in compliance. So I feel that one can be taken off.
I saw some improvement on 521 Fifth Street this weekend. They were doing something on there. I don't know if they were just cutting weeds down or if they were going to start doing.
I got an update on that one too.
Yes, what is that one?
Yeah, he was cutting down the brush and the weeds. Then they're gonna come back in a week or 2 and take off that portion that's falling down.
Okay. That's good to hear.
He's gotta wait for his nephews to have time.
Does that stay on the list until that's complied with?
Yeah.
I have movement at 515 Fifth Street. Lumber pack was delivered a week or 2 ago, and they started doing some work the past couple weekends.
Yeah, on a wood basement.
Oh, is it a wood basement? Is that how that works? Will somebody explain that to me?
They use
Concrete.
treated lumber
Instead of cement.
and
Yeah.
backfill on the outside with gravel and put in drainage material so that the lumber doesn't rot in the ground. And it can work very well, probably for the lifetime of that house.
Okay.
So
That-
as opposed to putting in
Yes,
a
Bob
block
Kermig used to do a lot of them,
foundation, this
and they will
appears
probably,
to be I would say would be a viable option. It just seems like the house is going to be setting very high. But knowing that is a flood area, or that a lot of the drainage goes to that backyard.
It's a low spot.
I don't know what else they can do if they're going to have any kind of a basement under it at all. So I think it's going to look a little odd being that high, but they're getting it done.
Anything else on the nuisance program?
Let me find the address. Catty corner for me, northwest. Across the street from Kelly Whitmer. To the north.
On which street? On Maxwell?
Tongays.
What'd you say?
Isn't
Tongays.
that Tonga? Or are you talking Jason Sandy? Next block up.
Tonga. He's still within the 90 days that we gave him, Deb.
Yes.
I have some grass properties, weeds. I still haven't done that.
As to your question about a second letter, I'd say at the September meeting, we should come and revisit the second letter, because everyone will have had a chance over the summer to get stuff done. And sending, I guess we just had the one taken off, but a thank you letter would be just fine, particularly since he's shown concern and come in to talk.
Okay.
Anything else on nuisance properties?
No.
Okay. We will go on to council mayor report. Steve, you're up.
I have 4 items. I handed out a piece of state code 384.7 capital improvement fund. This was brought up at the last Story County Economic Development meeting. Story City is one of the very few cities in the state that's using this. What it allows is, after a public referendum, which would be an item put on the ballot asking whether or not the public would allow a capital improvement levy to be levied. If approved, then up to 67.5 cents per thousand would be collected for and put into a fund for capital improvements. What that would bring in, just a little under $20,000 a year for capital improvements. what we would have to do is take a look at the capital improvements that we want to accomplish. Do we want to put in a bandstand? You know, that may cost $80,000, $20,000 a year. Takes 4 years, and we could have that money. Do we want to? Story City is using it to fund library, building a new library. If we wanted to set money aside to do a library in a different space, or put an addition on here so we could do a library, it costs another $80,000, $100,000. If we had this levy, after 5 years, we would have the money to do it. In order to get people to vote yes, which is what they would have to do, you have to have 50% plus one saying that they're willing to tax themselves. And if we want to do this, we have to have, I believe, a specific plan on what we're going to use the money for. That what we're going to use it for needs to have public support. So if it's a bandstand, if it's an addition for the library, if it's any other capital improvement in town, then we would have to inform the public, get them to back it, and it would be on the next election, the next ballot, which could be this fall.
So we have to know
But
by when, so
in order,
in order to get that on the ballot?
I think we have to have it on the ballot sometime at the end of August. Isn't that the time frame that we had on the library ballot measure?
I'm thinking so.
Now, we're gonna have a work session next week. Everybody can think about this, whether or not whether or not we believe that getting $19,000 odd a year and setting it aside for a specific purpose, that we can get 50% plus one vote, work a lot like the school districts for Pebble.
Physical plant and equipment levy.
Yep. Which is not without controversy.
Right.
But, and you say that you're going to do it for a specific number of years, and then it comes up for vote again. Just like Pebble. So,
I think timing, having come out of the COVID and people losing jobs and taxes already going up, I think the timing is not really good for this year.
Well, if we don't do it this year, then it won't be for another 2 years.
But by then it'll be healthier. I think the economy in Story City is better than the economy in Maxwell.
That's all part of what makes a horse race.
And that's why you hold public or town halls, just to say, here's what we're planning on doing. Now you get to make the decision. Do you want to do this or not?
They'll have the decision capability at the next election, and since it is a general election, there should be a fairly good turnout. So, something to think about. we've been taking our capital improvement projects out of our regular funds, having a dedicated source that's going to be for a specific project, or a specific use, like the PEPAL is. You say, this is what it's going to be used for, and then you stick to it and do it. And it may take you a few years to save the money up, but you can do the bandstand, you can redo the food stand, any kind of capital improvement.
Can you be vague on that description? Because I know with PEPAL, we were able, I think the lawyer at that time wanted it to be as vague as possible because, for instance, in this situation, let's say we say, okay, we want a capital improvement project to be the bandstand. 3 years down the road, something happens and we need a whole new Baldwin Street, right? And we got to pull funds from somewhere. Since it's a capital improvement, pull those funds for that project and then.
I'm not sure that road would qualify.
If you said,
What fire truck?
if you said just parks, then it could be anything in the park.
It all depends on what you can sell to the people.
Yeah.
Something to think about between now and our work session next week. And you don't have to go for the whole 69.5 or 67.5 cents. You can do something less than that. It's just that 67.5 cents brings in at the current tax rate just a little under 20,000. And the estimate that we had to expand the library by putting an addition on the back here was 80,000 to 100,000. If that's what people want, then they will vote for it, and that's what that's how you inform people so they can make up their mind. If you keep it too general, then it's going to be some of the same issues that have been brought up in the past, that it gets used for things other than what people thought it was going to be for.
Can we do this since it has to be submitted to city election upon the council's motion?
Well, at the work session that we're going to have, if there are 3 council people there, and if the agenda says that we're going to do it, then we can certainly pass on it at that time. I know Story City had help with from their bond council to get the exact language down. They committed to a project. They got the project completed, and then they worked on another project after that, because they had it for a certain number of years. So that may be part of the magic of the language and making sure that people understand that that's what you're doing.
For sure. What else you got?
We have Natural Resources is offering $500,000 worth of grants to plant trees. I sent a copy of that information out to everybody, and I believe that this is something that has been thought of in a positive vein. Like any grant, there are requirements and conditions. If we want to pursue it, then we need to probably have our Parks and Open Space Council people and the Parks and Open Space work on the grant. And it is also September 1st. So we would have to, if we complete the grant and want to submit it, we may have to have a special council meeting in order to do it. And I think our council people are more than capable of deciding. Our council representatives on Park and Open Space are more than capable of deciding whether or not a special meeting should be called. So there you go.
Would that be for like the ash trees that are
Absolutely.
that residential properties could be replacing those trees?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, because there's a lot of them.
Yes. And not only on residential, but we have a lot of them in the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
We are required to take the ones out of the right of way. And private property owners are responsible for taking them off of private property. But if we can get grant funds to help cover that cost,
That'd be wonderful.
then that would be great. And it's for any derecho damaged trees or any of the ash trees. And I think at the last meeting, I discussed a program where we get an arborist to go through town and help identify these trees. I don't think anything's been done on that. I wrote up a email that could be sent to 3 arborists to get proposals. I think we should. I would like to see us go ahead and do that, get the arborists proposals, see how much it's going to cost, and if they can go through and identify how many trees we had should be removed, then that would just augment whatever grant application that we would submit.
Perfect.
Number 3, there is an intercity thing going on at Cedar Falls that all cities are invited to attend. I think it costs $750. And if anybody thinks they're interested in going to, where is it, Eastern Iowa, $750, Marion, Cedar Falls, and Dubuque to see what people are doing on August 17th, 18th, and 19th. Then here's information, and if somebody really is dying to go, then we can act on that next week when we meet. So here's the information. Last is microphones. I tried to listen to the last meeting, and even though I had attended the meeting, I couldn't understand anything that was said. So is there a way to get better sound quality?
As far on YouTube?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to, because I tried to use the old microphones and I couldn't get them hooked up to the computer. So if we can find something that hooks up to the computer and we each have microphones that way, then we can make that work.
I think it'd be worthwhile. I just can't hear as well as I used to, but I couldn't understand even what I was saying. So that's it.
Lauren?
Nothing really. I found this letter. I don't know if that needs to be addressed or are we not going to address that. And
It's a letter from Tony.
Oh, yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like we owe it to Miss Nasty to at least acknowledge the fact that we read it
For sure.
and I'm just gonna say I agree with Miss Ness. I think Tony would give the shirt off his back to anyone. And I agree with the letter. I don't exactly know all of the background or what stems from it, but I do agree with Miss Ness.
That it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
We do have a employee manual, and the employee manual says that you cannot use city equipment for personal use. And making in the incident that is described, it was not for personal use, and it would have worked better if Tony had called his supervisor, the mayor, and said, "This is what I'm going to do. Do you have any problem with it?" And getting authorization that way, or we rewrite the employee manual. That language is in the manual because the general public does not have access to city equipment, and to use city equipment for private use is just not acceptable. In this case, it was not for private use.
I will say, I do think our handbook is a little bit vague on that because it does say you can use it as long as you replace the gas. I had it pulled up, and I can make sure that I forward that to everybody as well.
Employee handbooks.
Salary structure. Look at you on top of it.
Actually, I had them ready for last week at reading. Forgot to give them out.
Top of page 6.
Yes, top of page 6 has that in. But like you said, it is only for extreme emergencies. But it can be obtained from the immediate supervisor and or city council, and fuel used must be replaced as well.
You know, in this case, a simple phone call to the mayor saying that he's going to do it. The mayor saying, "Yeah, go ahead," and then doing it. Washes everything clean.
Sure.
No need to be replacing gas or anything because it has been authorized. I agree that with all the sentiments expressed in this letter concerning Tony and the work that he does and the initiative that he takes. there's no question that he goes above and beyond. I do take exception to the characterization of childish actions of a council person or some of the other expression. I think that this is an issue that has been a settled issue. It's in the employee manual. And if we don't want it to be in the employee manual, we have the opportunity to change it. So everybody can take it home and take a look at it.
Lauren, did you have anything else?
No, I think we need to take a look at the employee handbook as a whole. And if this is the case, if this incident happened prior to any changes to the employee handbook, so, and it does state any fuel used must be replaced, so I'm willing to be able to continue for Tony to take care of our citizens and make sure that everything is above and beyond taken care of. I'm willing to replace the fuel with my.
For me, that's not the issue. For me, the issue is making sure that there's notification of what's being done.
I would agree.
Megan?
I have nothing.
Doug?
I had a neighbor ask, and Deb, maybe this is more of a question for you. Have we had door-to-door salesmen trying to sell internet? They were approached and a person almost forced themselves into the house. They had to get pretty stern with this individual. So,
Nothing's came through here.
okay. And I did suggest to them asking for their permit to sell in the city limits would be the first question you should ask in any case.
And that was for Dish Network, or was that for internet?
It was a different internet. It wasn't Dish. It wasn't Windstream. It was a.
Well, it was the Dish that came to my house.
All right. I'm not sure. Regarding this letter, obviously I'm the person that was referred to. Protocol indicates that, you know, there's a discrepancy between what the policy is and our procedure. And obviously this was not for personal use, but it was used after hours, and that kind of made me question what's going on. Other examples, if we want to cancel this whole section, that's fine, but I think, as Steve suggested, the permission of the mayor is critical, and communication would be very helpful. We're covered that way liability-wise and in other fashions as well. So that's all I have to say about that. And that's it.
For me, Lauren, you took mine. Latifah and I are going to set up a meeting hopefully for this week with Tony and with Nick to take a look at those outdoor warning sirens. If not, the only option is to completely replace them. So we're probably just going to keep spending until we figure out the problem. So, anything else for the good of the cause? All right, number 9, consent agenda, approval of July 11th, 2022 minutes and approval of current bills as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Steve.
Second.
Second by Lauren. Discussion. Hearing none. I forgot where I left off. So Steve?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Megan.
Second.
Second by Doug. Discussion. Hearing none. Lauren?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
When is your work session
Um,
besides next week?
Eighth, 9th, 10th, 11th. Probably not the 12th. What works best for everybody?
Well, for me, Tuesday or Thursday night.
What's-
Definitely not the 11th for me.
So the 9th,
That's a Tuesday night.
it's a Tuesday night. At 6 PM
Yep,
at the Legion Hall.
I'm sorry, you're speaking of August, right?
yeah.
Next week.
Week from tomorrow.
Yeah, I can probably make that. There's a booster meeting, but I can work things out.
All right,
Well, would it work better on a Wednesday night?
What did you say? 11th? No, 11th?
I won't be here.
Wednesday the 10th.
Does 10th work?